Home Show Garden Pros, helping to turn your thumb green.
Well, hello. Good afternoon. This is Home Show Garden Pros, the live video version. We got us a show here where we talk gardening. So, it's linked to the awesome radio show, also named Home Show Garden Pros. And we gather garden professionals, these amazing co-op members we've got, and we combine our knowledge and make a super force for gardening. And that may seem overblown to you, but it doesn't feel like it because we have all these incredible experts from these incredible retail garden shops. So places like Enchanted Forest and Enchanted Gardens out there bookending Richmond, Texas, up in Kingwood. You got Kingwood Garden Center and Warren Southern Gardens, two beautiful places up there. Just great. Out in Katy, Nelson Nursery and Water Garden, awesome spot there. And then up 249, Northwest Houston, Plants for All Seasons. So you combine all that stuff, and it's like, whoa, what gardening information. And of course, we added the amazing John Ferguson to that cooperation, co-op, you know what I'm saying, from Nature's Way Resources up 245, just between Woodlands and Conroe, just east of 45. Nature's Way Resources has a beautiful new garden center area. So that's what we do on the radio show is we build a little super team of knowledge professionals. And what we do here on the live version is we'd like to lift up groups that are gardening, nonprofits that are out there working the gardening scene. And, of course, we love having master gardeners on. And that's where we lead into Jonathan Correa. Hey, Jonathan.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Doing well. Thank you for asking. So, our normal shtick is that we talk about what the master gardeners are doing right now, answer a few gardening questions, go to a throw out a video, and then answer some of the questions that we've got online. And so what are the master gardeners up to right now?
Well, our gardens down on the southeast side of town, the Genoa Friendship Gardens on Genoa Red Bluff, took a pretty hard hit over the freeze, but things are really coming back. The roses haven't looked that good in 15 years, some of the folks are saying. Bamboos and gingers are coming back. The trial gardens and the production gardens are looking fantastic. Several plants that did survive through the freeze actually have come back nicely. Kale and chard that were just covered with a little frost cloth. All the new tomatoes and peppers, they're doing wonderful. The herbs are just bounding out everywhere. And some of our new demonstrations, like we're doing hops this year. We're growing hops. They grow on a vine. I didn't know that. But we do 2 trials this year. One is growing them, but then the second one will be drinking them.
Oh, nice. I like that. I'm a big fan of that specific beverage. So that's so cool. And you guys, you mentioned trial gardens just there in passing, but y'all are really doing a lot of research and learning a ton. I mean, not just on what survives freezes and what doesn't, but what can grow here generally.
What will grow here best, exactly. From what I understand is that they do the same trial all around the state, and they take all the results from it from seed to seed. We start with a dozen seeds, and they say grow it, and then we start it in a little pod, bump it up to a 4-inch, put it in the ground. Every week, our team is out there measuring, describing, tasting, if necessary, harvesting, and measuring how much it harvests. And at the end of the year, we send all this information back to A&M. And they pound the numbers in, and at the end of the day, it comes out, okay, this is the best green bean to grow in Harris County. But it doesn't grow in El Paso so well, but it's really good in Tarrant. Or like right now, we're doing petunias, so that all comes in.
That's awesome.
Good news.
That is so cool. And so if people want to participate in that, they want to become a master gardener, there's a lot of training that goes involved and service time, but it's really rewarding.
It certainly is. If you like to help people learn how to garden and use relevant horticultural information, it's a great program. It's not just sitting in the garden digging in the dirt. There's a lot of production, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of education that we bring to the folks. The last year has been tough for all of us, but we're coming out of it, and we have some new programs that we've learned while we've been away for a year that are really, really moving on, and we'll be able to, trying to think of the best word to say that, the new things that were coming will really impress people, and the new way we're providing the information has also been very well received through A&M and the AgriLife office here.
That is awesome. That's such great news. And you guys are doing good work. So if people want to learn how, honestly, you just Google becoming a Texas Master Gardener and different programs in different counties. So just do that. You guys' website is great too. I mean, people can just go there.
You just go to Google and Harris County Master Gardeners will come right up. And we have got a good website that has lots of relevant information. Our Facebook page, our Twitter page, our Instagram page all has good information that constantly is being updated. And we'll still be doing it all the time.
That is awesome. I mean, doing these kind of live version shows really just like resonates how many people are putting out great content. So all these amazing co-op members, these garden pros we talk about, garden clubs, master gardeners, master naturalists, our space do it. It's just like so many great people are pushing good content, and I love it so much because gardening really, more people. I know a lot of new people are doing it, and we're proud you're with us. But like, it's such a great and satisfying hobby. So that's awesome. So I do have some specific questions for you, not just because you're a master gardener, but because you're also a realtor, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
And so we sometimes get the question, email or text or Facebook messages, just about like, what steps do I need to take to, I'm selling my house, or what should I look for in a new house? Really on the, if people are thinking about selling their house, what's a good kind of bar to get to in the landscape?
You want to know what your neighborhood is. If you're in a great neighborhood that has really, really good gardening front door practices, you're going to have to keep up with that because you're keeping up with the Joneses.
Right.
You don't want to spend so much where you over personalize it, but you want it bright and clean and healthy. One of the biggest things I will see when I'm out looking at somebody that did a nice job on the landscape, but they didn't plug in the sprinkler system, or they don't have a sprinkler system and they never watered it, or
right.
they buy something that really shouldn't be growing there. They bought hydrangeas, but they're on the wrong side of the house. They're not getting any sun and too much water, so they all die and look terrible. Or when you can tell that they literally went last week and bought 100 1-gallon pots because they're still in the pots in the mulch.
Yeah.
Pay that little bit extra to have a professional do it, because it will make a difference at the end of the day, because you get that first few seconds to make your first introduction, and it's usually with that front walkway.
Yeah.
With a clean sidewalk, clean house, bright flowers. Doesn't have to be knockout roses, doesn't have to be gardenias, or doesn't have to be any particular. It could be a whole bunch of different things. Or if you've been working on it over the years, you just kind of spruce it up. And it's a good thing to bring to the neighborhood, because people will remember that house we saw, honey, the one with the nice bright red roses, or the daylilies. That was a real pretty house when we walked into it.
Right. Like they may even call it the daylily house, and that's how they kind of like remember it, and it sticks in their brain that way. That's a really interesting thing, and I love what you mentioned about bright, like where it's not. To me, if it to be bright, it has to be pretty tidy, not overcomplicated. So it's like a.
Tight,
remember that?
Yes, tight, bright, nice, clean lines. If you want to have a little kind of English cottage garden look, that's good. But just try not to make it too busy and too overwhelming, because what will happen is they won't remember you as the daylily house. They'll remember you as that house with all that mess in the front yard.
Right.
I couldn't see the forest through the trees.
Yeah, it's so funny because if it's like, it could be a lot of landscaping, but if it looks clean, people think it's easy. And if it looks messy, people think it's a lot of work. So even though it's a lot of work both ways, it's a great thing. Well, cool. Well, what are some other tips on that front?
Making sure that your lawn looks healthy. That's really important. If you have a pool or a backyard, even if it's just very plain Jane, just keep it nice and neat and trimmed and edged.
Okay.
Spend a little bit more on a good fertilizer that is a long, slow release, one that will hopefully last the whole duration that your house is on the market.
Gotcha. That's a great thought.
There are, it's that time of year where it's going to start getting really hot, and our lawns can go from beautiful to ugly in about 2 weeks. And you don't want, a buyer to go, oh, what's wrong with this because of that? What happened here? Just keep it clean and simple. Maintain it. Don't overwater, but don't underwater. That's one thing I do find out that some folks will do, is if they don't water at all, they way overwater things, and your stuff gets drowned.
Well, and we will explore that later. We'll explore that reality later on as we're answering questions. Well, thanks a ton. I don't have any houses that I'm about to put on the market or anything like that, but I just, I need good answers too, and that's one of the ones that I'm always looking for. So thank you personally.
You're welcome.
All right, nice. We're going to start answering some of our questions. We gathered these questions from our website, HomeShowGardenPros.com. On there, there's a lot of interesting buttons. We have our whole kind of video library there, but two of the buttons I want to lift up are the Ask a Pro button, and that just sends an email to me, and I get you an answer. Sometimes we use it here on the show. Sometimes we read it on the radio show. So good content too there. And then the other one is the Listen button. That is a great way just to click and listen to the show. It plays the last two shows on a loop, and so it's always relevant, good information that is appropriate at this time, and good for kids. We don't cuss much on the show. Okay, we don't cuss at all, but you know what I mean. It's like good for kids. All right, Jonathan, we're going to get into these questions. First question is from Jennifer. Thoughts on nematodes. So she just wants our thoughts on nematodes. I feel like I'm seeing early signs of sod webworm moths. Would nematodes help? So, Jonathan, there you go.
It's a possibility. I haven't used them myself to control sod webworms. I'm lucky that I don't have a lot of sod. I do know that you first have to kind of figure out how bad the infestation is. You take about a 6 inch by 6 inch square, and you dig it up a couple inches, and you look to see how many of these sod webworms you have. If you've got about 6 or more, you have an issue and need to get on it. I think if you're to use beneficial nematodes, you need to do a little more research from somebody. Sorry, whoops. Let me put that down. My bad.
No, it's fine.
That you'd want to do some good research on them to make sure that you're applying them correctly, because the good nematodes are great, but you want to make sure you're using them correctly. Does it interfere with any other plant? Just making sure you're getting the right information. And if the instructions are with it, I always recommend read the instructions twice.
Right.
Because I need to read things twice when it comes to that, make sure I'm getting the correct one. I do know that, AgriLife wants us always to say that if you have a certain amount of a pest control, you probably should start thinking about, a integrated pest management system or some kind of pesticide to knock it back quickly, so that you can then go to a more holistic, I guess, the nematodes would be approach to maintaining it. But the fact that she's getting on it early is very smart of her, rather than waiting till July or August to go, what's wrong with my lawn? That's always good to be proactive on something, because little problems, when you let them stay in the garden, will become a much larger problem.
Very true. Very true. I mean, those direction things, if you're reading directions too, you always want to read to the very end. That's a thing too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, something that's there. So read it to the end and read it twice. Nematodes are great. They can do a lot of things. There's a lot of different ones. And so wherever you're potentially buying them from, it should tell you what those nematodes eat, because there's a lot of different types. And so that's one thing. I love that you mentioned IPM, Integrated Pest Management. I feel like it's something we're always doing, from building up the culture in the space to making sure we've got mulch. If we're trying to get deeper roots, that has to do with pest management and herb pest management. And so to me, it's like something that you're always doing. You want to stay in that holistic top space if you can, but if you just be like, oh, we'll never have pests, that's when you get pests. So
yeah, I think we all strive to be pesticide free.
Yes, right.
But every once in a while, there's going to be, you go away for the weekend.
Right.
You're on vacation for a week, you got sick, you don't feel well for a few days, and it was 80 degrees and 100% humidity, and your cabbage has become infiltrated with every known bug in town.
Yep, and you're like, you don't know half of them.
Yeah, and there's no amount of ladybugs or praying mantises that are going to help.
Right.
DE's not going to help. You just could either destroy everything or get out some Sevin or some other stuff that will wipe them out. But then you get back to a manageable approach, and IPM is multi layers of controlling pests, from not letting them in the yard to giving them a hostile environment, which doesn't mean a pesticide. It means very healthy soil. Very healthy soil. Your plants are healthy. They can help fight off bugs more naturally.
Right.
And by inviting the beneficials. I can remember going to a place on Washington a long time ago, and someone getting like 3 boxes of ladybugs. And I said, wow, that's a lot of ladybugs. You must have a lot of pests. No, I don't have any pests. I let them out, and they just eat everything and leave. And the guy behind the counter said, no, he has no pests because he's always using ladybugs, but they always leave because there's no food.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And
So the neighbors were benefiting from them.
yeah, somebody is over there, or whatever eats ladybugs is loving life, right? Yeah. I think that's really why. I mean, planting some of the plants that invite ladybugs in this example is something you can do on a regular basis. If you see a small aphid infestation, don't freak out. Try to get them to show up then, and then when you have that big one, you're ready to go. But you're absolutely right. Sometimes we gotta bring in our toolbox and our toolkit, and you know that saying, when your hammer's your only tool, every problem's a nail. And it's like, okay, chainsaw is my only tool. You know, that's sort of like the pesticide front is like, we're going nuts with this thing. But yeah, so nematodes are great. At this point, at this stage in your lawn, if you think you're seeing sod webworms, they make a garlic barrier spray that just smells like garlic. Insects do not like the smell of it, and it's just a repellent. Maybe something like that. Molasses is sort of the same thing. Bugs don't like the smell of it. Spray it out there. Try to do maybe a little more repellent element to it. And maybe that helps to just get them out of your lawn and get them away, you know. So, and then if you're seeing them in your bushes, spray your bushes too. That garlic barrier stuff's pretty neutral for the plants. So, thorough answer there for Jennifer. She did ask us a pretty open-ended question, right? That first one. What do you think about nematodes, or something like? What about nematodes? Well, they're nice. They're worms. They're long. They're long, but they're tiny.
Yeah, they're skinny little gross-looking things under the microscope, but they have a very good, important job when they do it right.
That's right. Exactly. Yes. Okay. We do have a quick question here from the comment section. And so this is from Ken. Ken says, bag or mulch grass clippings. So that's he's mowing the lawn, mulch. There you go. I like it. Yeah. Good. He gave you two options. So, you know, maybe if you've got a ton of high weed seeds, you bag it one time, but mulching it is so good for the soil. And that's what our big focus is. Yeah, I was talking to somebody about improving the soil. He's like, well, I mulch my grass clippings. And I was like, dude, you're just keeping it balanced, right? Those leaves, all that stuff in the leaves is coming up from the soil. And so by leaving the leaf clippings, you're just kind of like keeping everything the same. So, you know, if you really want to kick it up a notch, grass clippings aren't going to do that. But if you're bagging them all and taking them away, man, I really hope you're adding a bunch of more good stuff back to the soil. Right. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that, just like Forrest Gump. All right, here we go. Next question. This is from Steven. I'm eager to hear the answer for this one. I have a fig tree about 5 years old, and this year the leaves came out good at first, but now they're all wilting and dropping off. It happens on one branch, then moves to another. What is this from, and what can I do to fix it? Thanks. I mean, you know, obviously tough without experiencing it, but any thoughts are appreciated here.
I would probably say my first question is when he says, now they are all wilting and dropping off. It happens from one branch, then moves to another. That kind of concerns me.
Sure.
I would highly recommend him to get a couple of the leaves, put them in a Ziploc bag, and contact AgriLife to see if they can take a look at it. Because we used to be able to have people come in and drop off. You know, it's got to be kind of clean and sterile. Don't just come in with a branch. You know, put it in a Ziploc bag so the
wave
bugs
it around.
don't run away. And we have a bug guy that looks at him. He's been really good. I've brought in a few different things. He's like, oh, that's this, and this, and you need to do that, and that.
Right.
That's probably one of the, because that way you will have a professional that knows whether it's blight, a bug, or any kind of pest. My other answer would be that and again, kind of overwatering, underwatering. This has been a rough year on people. I know everybody at first was saying, do a deep drench on your trees to help them survive. But remember that when the water is applied to the tree or the bush, it goes down to the roots and the roots drink it up. But it needs to dry out also so that when the water disappears, oxygen and nitrogen and other elements go down to the roots because the roots also breathe air like we do. And sometimes if you water a little too much, it's not getting oxygen and nitrogen is very important for the leaves of a tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's also
moving from branch to branch. That kind of concerns me.
Well, a lot of fungal diseases kind of do that same thing. Some of those wilts or
you want to know what it is before you go down to the store and go, I have a fungus. What do I need? It's you want to know you have the right remedy for it.
Yeah,
You
solution,
don't want,
absolutely.
you don't
We don't
want
want to
to
apply things
sword
that
to a
will
gun knife.
kill absolutely everything if we don't have to. So
Correct.
want to avoid that at all costs. I mean, having said that, putting down some compost as mulch will kind of help it. It'll balance that fungal bacteria relationship. Maybe you'll get some of the bacteria that eat those disease fungi. The Monterey Complete Disease Control is awesome for that. But at the same time, you will always want to identify your problem. We get a lot of kind of gardener questions. What's this weed? What's this bug? What's happening here? That's really good to pursue that information. So, so that's the invitation to you, Stephen, is that maybe give us a couple pictures on that and we can follow up there. So great question. You mentioned heavy watering, and so we're going to come in with Carlo's question. Carlos says, dollar weeds taking over my backyard, St. Augustine. Haven't been able to control them. Any recommendations?
Dollar weeds are rough little bugs. They're not bugs; they're plants. But
Well,
the
yeah.
I've I know from personal experience, a very good friend of mine, he mowed his lawn every Saturday at 8:30 a.m. in the rain, in the winter, in the summer, every Saturday at 8:30, and he always had it on 4 inches. Don't mow it shorter, don't mow it taller, and he had the most beautiful St. Augustine lawn I've ever seen. It was trimmed and edged. It was just like a green carpet.
Well,
And I said, "How do you not have weeds and all that?" Because I always mow it at 4 inches. I don't need to fertilize. I rake it every once in a while, check the thatch, and he was just very simple with that. I know down at our General Friendship Garden we have dollar weeds. If they were $1, we wouldn't have a budget deficit. We would have much money. We don't want to do the weed and feed because we have a lot of swales and stuff that go into the bay and all. We don't want to do with that. So we're trying to mow more often because that seems to help out a lot of lawn problems, making sure the lawn is healthy. If you do need to add a post-emergent to it, make sure you're, again, reading the instructions twice all the way to the end and understanding how to apply this. Does it need to be applied to dry or does it need to be applied to wet? Do you water it afterwards? Do you not water it afterwards? Can the kids and dogs walk on it when it's dry or when it's wet? And find out exactly what you want. I mean, do you want to literally get down there and start digging them up? You can. I wouldn't recommend that because you'll be there all day. But, a good constant mowing does very well. Not allowing the dollar weed is one of these ones that if you chop it up into 10 pieces, it multiplies it like a hydra or something. So you just have to kind of keep it clean, dig them up, remove them if you want to, but be consistent with your lawn care. And sometimes you just kind of have to look at it and go, well, that dollar weed's going to be there. If it's driving you crazy, remove it. But if you think your neighbors are going to judge you on your lawn, I don't think they will.
I believe that we tend to see dollar weed in two types of spaces, highly compacted spaces or overwatered spaces. And, or sometimes the combination of those. And if you ever are one of those people that does get down on your knees and try to dig it out, you'll notice their roots are very thin and very shallow. And so to me, that points to potentially we can overcome it by opening up compaction. And I've seen this result. I mean, your buddy, because he had that tall grass, probably didn't have compaction issues, and that let a lot of weeds go down and not be able to ever see the light of day.
Right.
And that's where, when it comes to the dollar weed specifically, it's on the side of sidewalks a ton. It's on the low part by a curb, and compacted spaces can be like little bitty bowls that hold some water in them, and that that very shallow rooted weed does not like it when you have nice, lush, deep soil. So if that's something you can focus on, that's great. Have you used Agrolon much? That's what my kind of go-to with dollar weed.
I have not used it in my lawn, but my neighbors are using it. He's a realtor also, and he always asks me about his lawn, how to make it greener, and he's been using that. And it's I can't remember, iron fate. It's in a green bag, it has iron in it, something like that. I can't remember what the name is, but he's working on that. But I think that again, constant maintenance, really not constant, continual maintenance is a very good thing to do for your lawn, and getting down there to see it. And you said, like, you can dig it up. It's not super hard, but if you have a really bad infestation of it, it's going to take a while. But mow it, just care for the soil. And if you got it in a bad spot, that's a spot to really kind of then focus on to get rid of the conducive environment that's bringing dollarweed over there.
For sure. Well, great thoughts there. And yeah, dollarweed's a real rascal. All right, back to the comments. Carlos says he's going to try to mow higher. He's going to go to 4 inches. He's got it at 3 inches. So, Carlo, 4 inches, buddy.
Good.
No, doing great. Thanks for that. 3 inches is a fine height for St. Augustine, but that a little bit higher can make a difference when it comes to competition. Another thing to do, Carlo, is try putting out some Humates Plus. It's a product that Microlife makes, and it really does a great job opening up the soil just a tiny bit, but maybe just enough that your St. Augustine kind of takes up and just dominates. All right, Wendy has this question. So here you go, Jonathan. She says, my gardenia has that black coating on it. What can I use to remove it? So I think she's talking about a tuxedo.
Her gardenia has black on it.
Yeah, but sooty mold, I'm betting.
Yeah,
I'm betting it's sooty mold.
Yeah, I get it on my citrus leaves a lot because I'm near the highway. It's just you just got to wipe it off. I don't know how to prevent it because it's in the air all the time. Unless if you
sure.
Yeah, I don't think you can wash it off unless if you're out there every day. Gardenia hopefully is not as big as an orange tree, but a nice light wash and insecticidal soap maybe would wash it off. And
yeah.
If you really need to, a little dish soap and water and a sponge and just wipe off each leaf one by one, it'll get done, and it'll look certainly a lot prettier. But I don't know if we really have any remedies or treatment to stop that.
Yeah, it sounds like you're kind of talking about just road grit, and my mind went to sooty mold that grows on honeydew from bugs like aphids and stuff like that.
True, yeah.
So that may be something she's dealing with too, especially if she has it in kind of the opposite situation that you're talking about. If she has it in a dense place by a house, so maybe that insecticidal soap is a really great idea for rinsing off those leaves, but also putting some on there that those insects aren't going to like at all. So one thing, and I know that, Master Gardeners and AgriLife does a lot of research on Brix rating, especially with grapes. And it's something we'll have to explore with the hops experiment too. But the higher the Brix of a plant, the less small pests like it. And that Brix is just kind of like a complexity content of sugar in the plant. Mm-hmm. And basically it's a health test. And so the only way to improve it, this is what NASA says, the only way to improve it is by improving the soil. So a little bit of compost, Wendy, around those camellias might just save the day. I mean, gardenias, sorry. So get just a bag of, Nature's Way compost or a bag of Landscaper's Pride and just put it around your gardenias, and that may be all you need to do. So kind of nice. Okay, back to the email questions. Question number 3. This one's from Darren. These next 2 questions are from Darren. 2 different Darrens, so it's very exciting. You can tell our audience is really attracting to the Darrens. All right, here we go. I am looking for ideas on an approximately 8-foot hedge I would like to use to add privacy from a neighbor. From a neighbor. So specifically no, I'm just kidding. That area gets good sun. It has to be fairly narrow, as I have a pool that is right on a 5-foot easement. Would like to maintain a passage for lawnmower, etc. That also makes me think maybe he needs some small trees and not really a hedge.
Yeah.
So he's got to use that 5-foot easement both for his walkway across the pool and for the trees. So what are some?
He's looking for something tall and thin. So, there's a few that will grow fast, and if you get I always like a nice non-running but clumping bamboo. If you can handle it, keep it in a pot and bury it in that pot, it will grow fast and furious and make a really nice hedge. The blueberry, Japanese blueberry.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Easy to work with. That I've seen, especially a lot of new construction homes. That's a very go-to thing these days, and you can beat those things up pretty hard, and they come right back. I mean, I've seen them make them into like Christmas top finials and squares and octagons and hexagons, and they keep growing. Excuse me.
They do keep growing. They may get a little taller than 8 feet if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some other ones, easy to think of, like arborvitae, if you're looking for a narrow, tallish one. Vitex, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Jonathan, that reminds me, is a lot of times people, they want privacy, and they think they need a totally non-see-through wall And maybe from this neighbor that he's talking about, he does. But generally, you just got to get something that distracts the eye. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even if it goes deciduous, those twigs will stop people from noticing what's happening. Versus like you'll still feel like you got privacy because you've got a distraction.
You get
I
some
always
privacy.
talk.
They don't. Yeah. That they don't know what you're putting on your hamburger, but they know you're out there having hamburgers.
Yeah, exactly. But that's because the smell's so good. You know, the charcoal. Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of wax myrtles, especially poolside, because they also help with mosquitoes.
Hmm.
Anytime
Hmm.
anybody asks this question, we're always like, you got to check out hollies. Yopon are pretty nice.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that also will keep, that you can keep pretty thin. So,
And we used to have a very nice long hedge of yellow double bloomed oleander,
mm,
and it was a showstopper. You know, it wasn't an
absolutely.
encore. It only bloomed from about maybe May till June, but it was a nice green evergreen hedge all year long.
Yeah.
I've cloned it a dozen times because I could never find a double bloom yellow like this. And we're putting a deck over there now, so we're trying to kill off the last bush, and it's not dying.
Oh, man. Awesome. So
But
Darren needs
it
to just
was
come
about
pick it
8
up.
feet tall. Yeah, and
Wow.
it was very easy to trim around. It survived almost every freeze, even this freeze. That the last one still is coming back.
Wow.
I'm quite impressed with it. So yeah, that's a nice alternative too.
Well, we'll send Darren over to get it. He needs it. Okay, this next question is from Darren. Here we go. Different spelling, which is always refreshing. Darren needs some help. He planted a cherry blast loropetalum and do not know why it's not doing well. He has a picture. It is doing terrible. Never had this problem. The plant faces west, full evening sun. It looks like there's new growth, but then the previous growth is falling off. So we got a picture here too, and look at that. Not good. What's your first impression there, Jonathan?
Uh, well, the poor thing. Now, I'd like to know: did you plant it before the freeze or after the freeze? Because if you
Yeah.
planted it before the freeze, it's probably just going to take a while to come back. It was badly beaten up. If it's been there for a year or two, years last fall, it may just be that it's having a hard spring, or if you just planted it, is it being overwatered? What kind of mulch do you have there? It looks awful dark. Is it a good quality mulch, um, or is it the spray paint mulch? Because that may not be the best thing to feed your plants with. It may look pretty, but it's got a lot of chemicals in it. My opinion. I don't have facts on that, but I would think spray paint or paint does not. I don't think it's food-based coloring.
Sure, sure. It's not the same stuff they're putting in
Um,
cakes, you know.
yeah,
I have seen also the wood that they make dyed mulch out of because that fresh kind of woody stems and leaves don't take a dye very well. And
no,
so
they
they're
don't.
generally using dried lumber pieces like the stuff that you would make cabinets out of or even pre-treated. It's not generally treated lumber, but it's just heartwood. It's not very nutrient
Yeah,
rich lumber. And so not only do you have a chemical treatment on top of this nutrient um, you know, lacking lumber, you have both problems at the same time. So that often leads to a lack of resilience in plants. And so your loropetalum is a slow growing plant, and this is a dwarf variety. So Jonathan, I think you're
yeah,
absolutely right. Like it takes a while to grow back from the freeze for something that grows really
yeah.
slowly, but then with
And
that mulch, it might be a whole other
yeah,
layer.
but I do see a little drip irrigation, which is okay. I like that. How
Nice
often do you
spot. That's a nice
water it?
spot. Wow.
But right down by the roots, the where the trunk kind of goes down to the ground, how low
Hmm.
is that to the ground? Is it below grade or is it just above grade? Because it really should be just above grade. My hands are going everywhere. Um, so
Just
that
looking at it.
so it drains off and it gets air to its roots.
Right.
So
No, good call. Well, and you were also mentioning that drip irrigation sometimes, homeowners don't know how to calibrate it. They don't know how to check it. They don't know what the flow is on it. And so there could be very, very severely overwatering or very severely underwatering with that
or
stuff. So,
in my instance on mine, I unplugged it during the freeze,
mm.
drained the water. I didn't take the batteries out. So when I plugged it back in, it was like ridiculous. It was watering for an hour and a half one day and then not for like 3 days. I'm like, what happened here? I had to take the batteries out, let it sit, put new batteries in, and reprogram the whole thing.
Oh,
So you
wow.
do have to, even though you set it and forget it, you still need to check it every week or so to make sure that it is. working right. Because I was wondering why I was getting this puddle at the end of my gardens. Well, it's because I was watering for an hour and a half once a week rather than 10, 15 minutes every day.
Well, very few things can you actually set and forget, but when it comes to gardening, we're not really looking to forget. We're looking to embrace, to enjoy.
Right.
So, big step for me, seems like checking that watering on that lower pedalum is good. I'm putting something down like Microlife seaweed or even some Gardener's Magic from Landscaper's Pride, something that's got a lot of fertilizer set up, nutritional boost to it. Super Seaweed does a great job of kind of getting down deep, getting to the roots, and kind of helping provide it. But from now on, there's Black Velvet from Landscaper's Pride. You can use dark, fresh mulch from Nature's Way Resources. Those are two really dark kind of mulch substitutes that are actually going to help your plants out versus dealing with like this, crisis where every bit of threat, all the plant's resiliency is just gone. And that's my assumption on what's happening. And Jonathan, what happens when you assume. You take the information you've got and you make a guess based on that information. Yeah. That's literally what you do when you assume.
Yeah.
There's the other thing, but we said we weren't going to cuss.
Go there. Yeah,
exactly. We
exactly.
said we weren't going to cuss. So, yeah. Well, great job so far. Again, if you guys have any questions, put them in the comments. We're happy to get to them. We have a great little video segment here with Joey Linderman from Enchanted Gardens, and so we're going to go to that, talking peppers. Here you go, Joey.
Here we've got some of our most popular peppers, and now is pepper season. So there's things like sweet banana, which is a good snacking pepper. There's the famous jalapenos, of course, for salsa and adding spice to your food. And everybody loves bell peppers. The Big Bertha and the Red Beauty are two of the most popular.
Great thoughts there by Joey. Any further kind of tips for peppers, Jonathan?
Well, it is starting to be their season. They like it warm. They like it fertile. Water them from the ground. Don't spray them with water. And make sure they've got lots of airflow, and you'll get some really good peppers. I've got a few different varieties this year that I'm trying some. I don't know why I go back every year. I think I can handle it, but then I always want to do another hotter variety. I've got a Bulgarian carrot and some other. I don't know. It has like 3 X's on it. Yeah.
Is Bulgarian food spicy? Is that like I don't think I've ever had it.
I don't know, but it's a pretty looking pepper on the photo. So
right.
We'll find out probably in a couple months.
The medium peppers, serrano, jalapeno, anchos, they like make so many, and I can eat them. It's like hard for me to really get behind like something that's gonna burn my face off. But hey, you guys go for it. I know a lot of people love those super hot ones, and
they're always fun to have available for a friend or so.
Oh yeah. You go on and you grab your jalapeno, you eat it like, ooh, that's hot. Hey, you want to try this one? Sure. Sucker. Well, I did grow jalapenos habaneros a couple times, and it seemed to be the prettiest plant in the garden. It was like very well shaped, and man, talk about a pretty and shiny pepper. Just a gorgeous little situation. Do you feel like there's any additional tips that go with bell peppers versus kind of on top of what you just said?
Just, they like a lot of sunshine, especially morning sun, so they can dry out overnight with our humidity. A really good slow release fertilizer and very good deep rich compost.
Okay.
I find them and tomatoes to be probably the 2 heaviest feeders. And that's why I kind of, and you got to make sure you rotate them out. Don't grow peppers or potatoes and tomatoes and eggplant in the same spot every year. Rotate them in and out. Put a cover crop in after them.
Yeah.
But I just think that if you get a good plant to start with from a nice local nursery or somebody that's grown by themselves, rather than having something shipped in from 1,000 miles away from here.
Right.
One of the things I've noticed a lot as a master gardener with fruit trees and a few other things is they want to sell me a blank peach tree in Houston. I'm like, that needs 700 chill hours.
Yeah.
That's not going to grow here. Or certain vegetables that it's just too warm here for them, even though they like warm weather. It's just too warm and too humid. I've never been successful growing squash in my yard. I don't know why. I don't have the bugs. I've raised up put 4 feet in the air in big, huge containers, and
sure.
And they make the flower and then they die.
That's
So,
great. It's funny you said that because I had great success one year with those tromboncino, that's really long Italian squash. They
mhm,
call them like trumpet squash because they look like a big horn. And so that one year convinced me I was good at squash. And I've had mixed results ever since then. But I know I'm good at squash because I did tromboncino one time. So if you need any advice about squash, you just let me know. It'll be
there you
exactly
go.
what you're already doing. So
Squash man.
yeah, hey, Squash Man. That's this guy's name. I do like the name of the squash bugs though, because it's a type of bug and instructions. So
Hmm.
always good stuff. Good dad joke there to end it all. Well, thanks so much, Jonathan, for being here with us. You do a great job answering questions.
Thank you.
And again, let people know how to figure out more about Harris County Master Gardeners.
And we're available all the time. So come by and see us.
And I love that you have the great gardens, and people can call with a question, which is so cool, so rare. Obviously, if it's
They've
you have.
they've pivoted on that.
Okay.
We have a new Ask a Master Gardener questionnaire that you can do online.
Okay.
You can add video, you can add pictures, and they get back to you within 24 to 48 hours, depending on the question. They
Oh,
wanted to make
nice.
sure that we're giving more accurate, more relevant information. One of
Right.
the things we found over the pandemic was sometimes at the phone room, someone would call in and say, "Hey, Jonathan, what do you know about this?" Well, then they call back next week and they go, "Hey, Doris, what do you think about this?" And they get two totally
Two
different answers.
different.
So we're
Well,
trying to one stream of information.
gotcha. Well, if you do want to get your question answered via phone, call into Home Show Garden Pros. That's what we do. Saturday, 7 to 9 a.m. on Sports Radio 610. We have a lot of fun, and we'll say the number a lot during the show. So your job is just to tune in Saturday morning, Home Show Garden Pros. We love all we do. Big thanks to Jonathan. Great job again, as always. And you guys look him up if you need a good realtor. Y'all have a great day.